All right, Mason. So let's talk about how to set this up so that we can get these legs in the right position, put a couple joints here in the center, and then mirror these joints over. I'm not sure if the mirroring function in Maya is going to work with the geometry still on it, but we'll see if it does. There's some ways around it if not. So first thing I want to do is I'm just going to treat this axis right here like the ground plane. So I'm just going to try to tweak these so that I can put it on the ground. Let's see, this one needs to come down. And I'm using the up and down arrow keys to kind of move through the hierarchy. Let's leave that one there. We'll go back down to the base. Okay, let's see what we got there. Looks pretty good to me. I really like the character. It's looking nice. Okay, so how are we going to deal with this? Let's go to the top view. And, you know, we don't want to get too crazy here with the setup, and we need to think about how the body moves in certain places. So what I'm going to do is put a joint here in the center, and this is going to be the one that moves everything. And then I'm going to put a joint kind of close to where the head could pivot, and I'm going to put another joint here where the tail is, and then just parent them up. I'm not going to do any kind of fancy binding. So I'll go to rigging, and we'll grab this joint. And I want to make sure it's kind of centered in the world when I create this. So I'm going to hold down the X. Oops, let's get the move tool here. If I hold down the X key after I create this, I'm just going to snap it to that center. Okay. And then I'm just going to duplicate that joint and move it back. And I'm going to select this one and duplicate it and move it forward kind of to where those pivots are. Let's go into perspective. Of course, they're both on the ground because I did snap to grid. That's fine. Let's go to the left-hand view here. And I'm just going to kind of position them. These are going to work out pretty good, I think. Right, and again, I'm putting this here because I want this abdomen or whatever I can't remember the specific names for these, right? To be where I think it would kind of pivot off of this main body part, right? Okay, so the one thing here too, because how I'm going to select these, I guess another way maybe to help us out, I'm going to duplicate this one and put it towards the front end here. Just so we can see it, it might help out, honestly, with the selection. So I'm just going to select all these. And 0.2 maybe, make those a little bit smaller, right? And then I'm just going to connect these up. So I'll select this one here at the tip, and then I'll hold down Shift and P, and then I'll select this one, and P, and this one to this one, P, and this one to this one. P, right? So this one will be the center of this, and I want to be able to maybe rotate this one differently, and I want to be able to rotate this one differently, right? And then all the legs are going to kind of move. Everything's going to move with this. This is going to be my central thing for the spider, right? So now to connect this up, it might be a good idea. I'm being cautious here. I'm going to just duplicate one more over here and delete that. Okay. And what I want to do, and let's make this one smaller, 0.05. So what I want to do is, just in case I need to make some corrections in where the body is, I want to have a joint that can move freely as opposed to this one. So this is going to be our main root. Everything's going to follow it, right, in the hierarchy. So I'm just going to, in fact, let's take this one to this one, and we'll hit P, right? And I'm going to do that for each one of these. P. So I can have multiple joints drawn back to one joint, right? I'll do P. And these are a little bit big. Let's maybe 0.1. that one. Oops. Okay, so let's call that good. And then the last one, I'm going to take this and parent it back to this one, and I'll say P, right? So now if I select this, everything's going to get highlighted and all the joints move. And then very quickly, I'm going to take this piece here. And I mean, you haven't done that much modeling, just the nature of how this is constructed, it wouldn't bend very well because it comes to these points. That's totally fine. When you get into the other classes, you'll see how this works, right? So I'm going to select this one, shift select that, and hit P. So we're just locking all these things up, right? This one to this one, and hit P. And we'll do all these eyes. Let's get all these. Being kind of fast about this, I might choose a slightly different way to do this later on. And then I'll take that and hit P. So now if I click this joint and I rotate it, everybody, oops, I forgot these little circles here. Right? And clearly you would want to take these and kind of parent them together. All right, so now if this was selected, you can make it do some little stuff, right? Okay, so that'll be good for now. I'll come back to some maybe little extra features later on. So right now, if I select the whole entire, well, if I just select that joint, all this, oops, I forgot to parent this one. Right, so all this is working together. That's great. And now what I'm going to do is select this little special joint that I created right there. The idea that, if I needed to, I could change all these as a kind of group. And the way this works is, and I don't know if the geometry will ride with it. I can't remember ever doing that before. But I'm going to take all this and mirror it over to the other side. And in the rigging, it has a command for doing that. So under the skeleton, we want to mirror the joints, and we just have to check the right axis that we're going to flip across. So it would be along the Y and the Z, right? So this, if we were looking at it, would be Y and Z. That's kind of the central plane running down the middle. And if we just click this, so it kind of does it, but it messes up all of those pieces. That's hilarious. I have an idea why. So let's go back in here. Yeah, so all of that, let's turn off the joints. Let's see if this works this way. Come on, eyeballs. See if I can see it here. There we go. Turn off the joints. So let's just select all these knuckles. I guess we need to get the tips in there too. And that, and that. And let's do freeze transformations. Oops. Okay, what's going on there? Oh, all the rotations that are already in there. Well, let's see if I can do this on this first one. Modify. It's because there's a little hidden one right there. Is it? Nope, it is that one. All right, just because of how that's parented, in fact, let's do Shift P. I don't want that really in that. Not sure that's in the right joint, actually, on the tip. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Well, let's see if all these work. Modify, freeze transformation. I'm going to leave that one there for a second, and let's see if I show the joints again. And let's see if we mirror the joints, if that one works. Nope, exploded that one too. Okay. This will be a little bit of legwork, but we'll get it done here. So let's go ahead and turn the joints off again. Yeah, that's too bad about the freeze. I'm going to select each one of those, and up under the selection is select the hierarchy. Oh, I guess you don't have those all in there, so I got to do it by hand. Curious about that tip being in that hierarchy as well. All right, so with all those there, I'm going to hit Shift P and pull all those out, and then I'm going to do Command G to put them in a group, and it's going to put the group right at the center. And then I'm going to do Command D, and what I'm going to do is give this a scale of -1. And what that does is put all the geometry onto the flip side there. Okay, and then I'm going to do freeze transformation for that one. Okay, that should be all zeroed out, and that one's just already at 1. So now what I'm going to do is go back to showing the joints. So this is a little bit of a pain, but we're just going to parent it back up. It should take 2 seconds, right? So skeleton, mirror joints, and I'll put that over there. And you can see they're already lined up with each other. So now I can get it to do what it's supposed to. It looks like we're missing one of the connections there. So this one to this one, parent. That might be why we ran into that problem. Not sure if maybe I clicked on something accidentally there, but those should all be connected up that way. All right, so let's just go over that again. So I unparented, I just turned the joints off so I could easily select all the legs, the geometry for that, and I hit Shift P, as in Peter, to unparent all that, okay? And then I hit Command, I guess that might be, yeah, I guess that is Command on the PC. Command and G for group, and then I hit Command D for duplicate, and then so that gave me this second group right there. And then for the scale, because what I want to do is instead of it being in 1, I want it to be -1. So it created a mirror image of that, and it gave me this flip, right, of all these pieces. And now I do have to do a little bit of work and just parent these back up, right? So I would just select the corresponding pieces, right, and parent along. In fact, I'll start down here at the tip, right? So if I select this one and the joint, I'll hit P and take this one, that, and hit P. This one and that one, P. This one and this one, P. And we'll have to slide in there and get a couple others. Let's get this one and just put it. Actually, let's put this one on. There we go. Put that on that joint, P. So let's just see if this joint works right way. So that's all rotating. That's all rotating. That's all rotating. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pause this little thing, and I'm going to parent up everything. I think that makes total sense, how the corresponding geometry would go with the corresponding joints there. And then when we come back, we'll talk about putting the IK handle on and maybe a control or so. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, So we're back. Everything has just been parented. It took me just a couple minutes, right? To put those together. I'm not sure, just that didn't like the transforms when I was flipping the geometry across there. That's fine. Okay, so for each one of these, we want to create up a IK. I'm just going to do the one side, right? So I will go to rigging, and this is up in, also if I change it here, skeleton. We want to create an IK handle, and if we look at the options, we want rotating plane. That's probably going to be the default, but if you want to double check on that, make sure it's there. And what we're going to do is click from the joint at the base down to the tip, right? And it's going to give me this angle. Now, depending on how you set this up, I'm going to see if is it the offset? There we go. So it might have a few little issues in here, just how these were duplicated and moved over. Ideally, these would be put into like another little group and moved over to preserve the transform and the angle that they're rotated at. But I think this will work. And again, we don't have too much time to go crazy with it. So I'll just leave that twist kind of where it's at. We could create an aim vector to help with this later on. And I'll go back to the constraint, and again there and there. You can see what it's trying to do is go back to the kind of this center position, right? And make sure we click on the right ones. That one's a pretty good shape. Just gonna leave that right there. And there. Okay, so if I select any of these IK handles, right, I get the kind of the action that I'm looking for. You know, I'll have to see exactly how far they can bend and what those constraints should be, right? But those are all working pretty good, right? Just testing and then do an undo, so that goes back there. So we don't want to animate these. Really what we want to do is create some kind of control system. So let's just create a circle. And what I'm going to do is with the move tool, I'm going to hold down V, which is snap to point. It's up here at the top. So joints actually end up being a point that you can snap to, right? So I'm going to snap right there. I'm also going to select those. Well, let's just scale it. Just scale, just so it's something that I can select. And at this point, it hasn't been connected to anything. I'll just do modify freeze transformations, because I want this to be kind of the home position for that foot. And then I'll duplicate again, and take each one of these and using the little snap to point, right, let's just stick that right where they're supposed to be. And if I hold down the space bar and go to recent commands, you can see freeze transformation. You can see all the ones that we're doing, right? But freeze transformations. And then now that I've done that, I'm just going to hit G to do that again, and G to do that again. So right now, those are all where they need to be, and I can select and I would name these, right? But I'm being quick about this because it's a tutorial. So I'll select this, and then shift select the IK handle, and do constrain, parent constrain, right? And that will put the controller, the IK, so it's obeying that. So apply, right? So now I've set this up so each one of these controllers is controlling, driving the IK handles, which we need just because of how we're going to use the constraints. And you can see now that if I flex the spider itself, right, it has those legs staying on the ground. Isn't that the coolest thing ever, right? IK handles are great. Okay, so you can see they're now working together. Obviously, trying to figure out how you want to animate these is its own little trick. But this is now free to rotate a little bit here, and if we want to, we can take the eyes, do their own little thing. And obviously you're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. The last thing that we might do, just to make it a little bit easier to select, is maybe what we'll do is create one more NURBS circle, right? And I'm going to scale this up. And which way? Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how I might want to shape this, right? Just so it's so easily selectable. So maybe I'll take these points and scale them out. Yeah, I think this is going to work. I'll do something like this. So what I want to do is snap this one up to, oops, that's not the key I want. I'll move that up there. And I want to snap it to this center thing, so I'll hold down V again, see if I can get it there. That looks like it's spot on. And then I'm going to right click and go to Control Vertice. And what I'm going to have to do is go into component mode. What I want to do is leave this pivot where it's the center, but I'm going to take these points. In fact, maybe what I'll do is just shift. And I'm going to curl these up. And then I'll select the two here and the two here. I like it. There we go. So that seems like something, it's an easy enough shape for me to select, right? And it still has that pivot right there. And I've done a bunch of funkiness, but I'm going to go up to Modify Freeze Transformation again, so it's all zeroed out. And then I'll select that joint, and then my little butterfly wing controller, right? And if I want, in fact, before I do that, I'm going to just go to Control Vertice. And if I go to wireframe, there's the little one that I want, right? What I'm trying to do is just not click on the joints because they select in the hierarchy, and I didn't want to have to show you how to turn that off. So if I go back to 5, okay, so that works for me. So now we'll go back and again select the main controller or the main skeleton joint, and then we'll select the main controller, and we'll do constrain, parent constraint. And now if I, oops, did I do the wrong? I did it reverse. Right, sorry. I want this one. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and get that one. Sorry, my bad. And ideally, we would do this in such a way that would have an extra little bit of an empty group node in there. But given this is an intro class, I'm not going to get into the full deal with protecting inherited transformations and stuff. All right, so you can see all these are kind of moving together. You should be able to animate these the way that you want. And it's a cool little model. I think for intro class, very, very nice work. All right, almost 25 minutes of craziness. I know that was fast, but there was a lot to cover. I just want to make sure that you have a guide because I don't know how much time I'll be able to help you in class with this, but this should get you most of the way there. And I'll be there to help out if you run into any little questions. All right, happy rigging.